Hi, this is Ruby Ochoa, and I am filming my Module 2 reflection. For question 1, I faced many challenges. The main challenge I had was the word problems, as it took me quite a bit to understand. I think I needed more video examples to watch. I struggled to set them up and be able to understand them and put them into the right equation. If I watch more videos, I could possibly get a better understanding, but I'll continue to try. For question 2, we have a rock is thrown upward with a velocity of 20 meters per second from the top of a 24-meter high cliff, and it misses the cliff on the way back down. When will the rock be 10 meters from ground level? Round your answer to 2 decimal places. Show all your work for full credit. So what we have here is the gravity formula for velocity and height. I had already set it up. So we have 9.8 for gravity's meters per second. We have 20 for the starting velocity and 24 for the height. And finally we have 10 for, and we set it to 10 to figure, because that is what we're looking for. So first we're going to subtract 10 on both sides, which will give us negative 1/2 9.8 squared plus 20t plus 24 minus equal to 2. Oops, I forgot to rewrite it. I meant to put plus 14 equal to 0. So then we would combine negative 1/2 times 9.8, which is negative 4.9. And I forgot to put the t in there as well, so we're just going to go ahead and fix that. Plus 20t plus 14 equal to 0. So now we finally have our correct answer. Next, we can multiply both sides by 10 to make it easier to solve this equation. So we would have 10 times negative 4.9 is negative 49 plus 200 plus 140, and then equal to 0, because 10 times 0 is still 0. Next, we can use this equation to find our values for the quadratic formula. So we will have a equals negative 49, b equals to 200, and c is 140. So we can set up our quadratic equation, which would be t equals negative 200 plus or minus the square root of 200 squared subtract 4 times negative 49 times 140 all over 2 times negative 49. So now that we have it set up, we can solve our quadratic equation. Just gonna rewrite it negative 200 plus or minus the square root of 40,000, because 200 squared gives us that, and then we're going to multiply negative 4 and negative 49 gives us 196, and then we will multiply that by 140. Negative 200 plus or minus 40,000 minus, sorry, I had to stop recording and record again, minus 27,440. All over 2 times negative 49, which is negative 98. Alright, so then we will be combining our like terms. 200 plus or minus the square root of 40,000 minus 27,440, which gives us 12,560 all over negative 98. And then move on to our next step. Alright, so then it will be negative 200 plus or minus the square root of 12,560. Like, 1 second. Looks like I might have made a mistake here. So it's supposed to be a positive, so plus 27,440 instead. So that would give us 67,440. And then we can find the square root of that, which is 259.69 all over negative 98. And now we can finally separate our equations into two. For the first equation, we have negative 200 plus 259.69 all over negative 98. And the second equation will have negative 200 minus 259.69 all over 98. Now we can solve our equations, so we're just going to do the left one first. Alright, negative 200 plus 259.69 gives us 59.69 all over negative 98, and then dividing that, we get negative 0.609 or 0.61. And then since our answer can't be a negative, we would discard that answer and work on our next problem. So for the second equation, we have negative 200 minus 259.69, which is negative 459.69 divided by negative 98. So we will, dividing that, we will be getting 4.69. And since that is a positive, that is our answer. 4.69 is the answer to question number 2. For question 3, we have x squared plus 5x equals to negative 6. So we'll be adding 6 on both sides to get x squared plus 6 equal to 0. Now that we have it in the correct format, we can get our values. A equals 1, B equals 5, and C equals 6. From here, we can input it into our quadratic formula. X equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6 all over 2 times 1. So from here we can solve our equation. It is going to be negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. 5 times 5 squared gives us 25. And then negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. So that will be over 2, since 2 times 1 is 2. And then we'll subtract 25 minus 24, which is 1. So we'll have negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 1 over 2. So now we can separate our equation into two separate equations. The first one will be negative 5 plus the square root of 1 over 2. And the second equation will be negative 5 minus the square root of 1 over 2. So the square root of 1 is 1, so that'll be negative 5 plus 1 over 2. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. And then we can divide negative 4 by 2, which is negative 2. So that is the answer for our first equation. Next problem, same thing, negative 5 minus 1, which would be negative 6 over 2. And then we can divide that, which will get us negative 3. X is equal to negative 2 and negative 3. And that is our final answer. And finally, for question 4, I'll be taking the test in the end over.